Hi, everyone. My name is Yuan. I'm the co-founder of X Camp, taking charge in teaching, competitive programming, and the platform. And today is going to be our my CS journey, the road to USACO glory story of finalists, Series 2. And today we are very happy to have our finalists, Larry, Dong, and Thomas, to be here to share their journey, their insights, and also their takeaways. Yeah, I think it's already 1 to 2 minutes, so we'll get started. So today's agenda will be, the first part will be, we will introduce X Camp briefly, and then we will enter panelist introduction as well. After that, we will have a panel discussion. In the end, we will also have a QA session to make sure all your questions, or majority of your questions, get answered. So during the meeting, we are happy to have all the parents to post their questions in our chat. And in the end, we'll go over the questions. Okay, so at the very beginning, we'll go over one quick video just to give you a quick introduction of X Camp.
Computer science and artificial intelligence are tools that will change the future. X Camp Academy is a community dedicated to inspiring and cultivating the next generation of computer science and artificial intelligence talent. X Camp Academy was founded in August 2017 in Silicon Valley by 2 Google software engineers. The name X Camp was inspired by the variable X, which represents unlimited opportunities. X Camp's curriculum system and training methodology is inherited from Mr. Xianyou Xu, a Chinese diamond-level international gold medal coach. Our staff here in the US is mostly composed of senior software engineers from tech companies in Silicon Valley. In addition, we have strong support from international and domestic competition winners in our coach team. From beginner-level Python to classic C++ courses and competition honors courses, X Camp's curriculum is designed for students of all different levels. By participating in team-based competitions and facilitating frequent group study sessions, X Camp also fosters an environment of collaboration to build each student's confidence in their ability to code. As of now, more than 150 X Camp students have been qualified for USACO Silver Division and above, including 25 in the Platinum Division and 5 were selected in the US Camp, out of which 4 were fresh from the 2022 season. In 2022, in Stanford's renowned high school programming competition PROCO, X Camp students won 1st and 2nd place in the Advanced Division. In other well-known Bay Area programming competitions, such as the Harker Programming Invitational and Teams Code, X Camp students have won both novice and advanced groups top places. Here at X Camp, we believe that children have unlimited potential and can change the world through coding.
Okay, so go to the next page. Then we'll enter the panelist introduction session. And today we also, we are happy to have some of their parents to be here too. So after, Thomas, after you introduce yourself, maybe we can ask your parent to quickly introduce themselves as well. So we'll get started with yourself. Thomas, can you do a quick self-introduction?
Hi, I'm Thomas. I'm in 11th grade and I'm a rising senior. And I've spent 5 years at X Camp and I go to the Harker School in California, just like the slide says.
Great. Thanks, Thomas. And Thomas' mom, would you like to do a quick introduction?
Yeah, I'm May and I'm Thomas' mom. And yeah, I know nothing about programming, but yeah, that's yeah, I will say something later.
Sure, yeah.
If needed, yeah.
Yeah, so Thomas have been an X-Camp student. I think he is probably the 2nd batch of students that we started at the very beginning. And at the very beginning, he was taught by teacher Tiger. And later he was promoted to a class that were directly taught by me. And then later there were many teachers and coaches helped him along the way. And his mom, May, has been really active in X Camp community as well. And she has been really helpful in supporting the whole class in terms of lots of the arrangement, and as well as directly, be the person watch their mock test too. So our next finalist will be Larry. Larry, can you do a self-introduction?
Yeah, so I am an 11th grader rising senior at Basis Independent Silicon Valley. I've spent 2 years at X Camp. I actually originally spent 1 year right after I made Platinum. And then after that, we decided to quit. And then after like a couple months later, I rejoined X Camp, and I'm currently still part of X Camp. I was a USACO finalist 2 times the last 2 years, and I think X Camp has definitely helped a lot in that journey.
Sure, thanks, Larry. Yeah, and I think Larry has been really strong in both math and coding, and he has been really developed when he joined the X Camp several years ago. But later, when we have the whole batch of really excellent students went to Plantim together, he joined, and then we were able to carry all of them together. Larry, I think your parents are not here, right? So
yeah, my parents are not here.
So now let's turn to Dong. Dong, can you do a self-introduction?
Yeah, okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Dong. I'm in 10th grade, so like I'm a rising junior next year. And I joined X Camp last year in March. And I think like throughout this year, it really helped me like take my coding journey to a new level. And yeah, I go to Irvington High.
Yeah, so Dong joined 1 year ago, but over the 1 year, he's one of the most hardworking and most reliable student, according to a report from the coach. So yeah, he has been really working really hard, and also be very helpful to his peer students. Dong, is your parent here? Would they like to do a quick self-introduction?
I think, yes, my parent is here.
Let me check whether they are. Yeah, probably later we can do it when we turn to him for any questions. So yeah, so these are the 3 finalists of this year, and we have 4 more finalists. Previously, we already have one-time activity to have them talk about their experience. So now let's turn to the panel discussion. We'll have a list of questions to ask our finalists, and also based on their answer, I may add some follow-up questions. In the meanwhile, we welcome all parents to post your questions in the chat, and yeah, we will try to answer them one by one once we enter the QA section. So the first question to all the finalists here is that can one of you just tell us what's USACO US Camp? Anyone?
Okay, yeah. So basically, USACO Camp is it's basically like a training camp for United States students. And over here, we're going to like compete to represent the United States in the IOI, which is like a pretty big thing. And basically how this works is that we first have around like 4 USACO contests, and those are called monthlies. And in those you have 4 divisions, which are bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. And basically what happens is that the top platinum students get to be selected to be part of the USACO camp. And we have this around like a 10-day training camp where like we kind of like do contests and like we do a bunch of fun activities. And at the end, 4 of us are going to be like selected to participate in the IOI.
Cool, thank you. So essentially, USACO is a competition, is short for USA Computing Olympiad, and is like just like the math competition or physics math competition. it has a hierarchy of competition starting from bronze level, silver level, gold level, and the platinum level. And out of each year, all the platinum students, there are several hundred across the country every year. They will compete for 26 finalists position. And all the finalists, they will have a US camp, national camp. Typically, it's in late May. They will have around 1 week or maybe slightly more than 1 week journey in, I think it's in a university near Atlanta. And in that camp, they will select 4 students to represent the United States to compete in the International Olympiad in informatics. So in other words, US camp is like, we could tell it's like the top of the pyramid in the USACO competition or computing for senior high school students. And now let's ask all our finalists, what's your overall USACO US camp experience? We can go with that one by one. So yeah, anyone want to take the lead, or I can call your name as well? Thomas, how about you go first?
Oh yeah. So I mean, it was just a great experience overall. So basically, they split the camp group into 2 groups. Basically, there's like the Holstein group, which is the people who have gone to camp more than once, and the Guernsey group, which is like people who it's their first time at camp. And basically, the Holsteins get to take contests while the Guernseys get to have lectures. So I was part of the Guernsey group, and we had a bunch of really interesting lectures on like really complicated stuff like flows and thin cut trees and all that fun data structure stuff. But they also like prepared a bunch of fun activities. Like we went to Six Flags, and that was a very nice time. Got to go on a bunch of the rides, and of course, I also met like a bunch of really smart people like Benjamin. I hope he rubbed off on me and shared some of his brain cells with me. But it was just a really great experience overall, like having fun, learning stuff, and meeting people.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks, Thomas. And now let's come to Larry.
Yeah, so as Thomas said, there were 2 groups in camp. I was actually part of the Holstein group because it's my second time. So like in order to get into camp, I have to be a Holstein. But I think the overall experience was pretty good. Like the lectures were, some of them were pretty easy, like the ones about persistent data structures and stuff. But there were some harder ones like flows, or there was one about parallel computing, which was really interesting as well. Like all of the activities in camp aren't necessarily all related to like the contests and coding in general too. There are a lot of activities where we got to like, for example, go to escape room, and we had a lot of fun doing all of these like different excursions, like mini golf, escape room, Six Flags, stuff like that. So it's not only rigorous in the sense that you're doing coding and you're talking to people about coding all day, but you're also having a lot of fun on a lot of days, being able to relax, play games, sleep at 3 a.m., etc., etc.
Yeah, talking about the 2 groups, can you help us understand a little bit more about the schedule difference between these 2 different groups?
Yeah, so Guernseys, or so usually camp has 5 or 6 contests. Guernseys say Guernseys have like 3 contests that they take alongside the Holsteins, but also on the other 2 times they're listening to lectures. But because the Holsteins have already like gone to camp and they've already listened to all those lectures, then they like take contests while those lectures are going on. So yeah.
Yeah, so basically there's a group who are mainly taking contests every day to compete for the IOI team. And another group will be taking some contests, taking some lectures, and they will not compete for the IOI team. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so now let's turn to Dong. Thanks for introducing USACO Camp at the very beginning. Do you want to talk about more about your experience?
Yeah, okay. Thank you. So like what Thomas and Larry said, I think camp was like a very like wonderful experience. What I enjoyed like especially was like we had these lectures called the enrichment lectures, where the coaching staff basically found some people to talk about like some other topics like beyond what or like beyond USACO or like competitive programming. For example, they talked about like AI stuff, which I found like kind of interesting because or like basically some other topics that what students that really like USACO can kind of pursue in the future, like in their college or in their future careers. And I especially found this interesting. I also really enjoyed like the like Thomas and Larry said, which was like the activities that the coaches planned for us. And we went to like Six Flags, we did mini golf, we had like an escape room, and those were like really fun.
Cool, thank you. And then now let's come to the question 2. So for 2 of you are in the second group, how was the courses being taught inside the USACO camp? Was that difficult for you? And can you do a quick comparison with the 603 lectures that you've been taking? Go ahead.
Actually, like I would have to say that the USACO camp classes were a bit easier than the X camp classes that we've been having, because actually there was a lot of overlap, because like X camp teaches you a bunch of like maybe you would call obscure stuff, like I don't know, generating functions, link cut trees, HL, that kind of stuff. And like USACO, the USACO lectures are also supposed to like expose Guernseys to that kind of stuff. So there was actually a bunch of overlap between the USACO camp courses and the USACO and the X camp courses. So it was actually a lot easier for me to understand everything, because like I'd already gone through everything once.
Yeah, so in another word, you've been through quite some of the material already at X camp, and inside the USACO camp, the lectures were relatively easy for you, right?
Yeah.
Now let's turn to Dong.
Yeah, for me, like I mentioned like this like just like 3 minutes ago, but like I think what like or like the courses or like the lectures they had, some of them were like algorithms and some other ones were like enrichment lectures, which was pretty new, at least for me. As for like the algorithmic lectures, I think XCamp does provide like more in-depth like knowledge into these kind of like topics. But I would say that camp at least like has these like enrichment lectures that really help us like think about like we can do in the future.
Sure. And in terms of the lectures being taught inside the national camp, how was the teaching format look like? And was that any different from the courses that you've been taking previously?
I would say that for their lectures, they mainly focus on like the topics. Well, like I think in a lot of like XCamp lectures, we go over like specific problems, which I would say like the format is like a bit different, but overall like I would say that camp it was pretty similar actually, except for like they didn't really go over like specific problems or like they kind of just like looked at the concepts individually.
Sure. Yeah, thank you. And Larry, I think you didn't take the lectures. You were mainly competing every day, right? Busy taking the tests.
Yeah, but there were still some other lectures that we did take. These lectures were enrichment lectures. So like the Guernsey lectures are more related to competitions and coding, like and the USACO IOI style coding, but the enrichment lectures are actually more related to like, or less related to coding or USACO style coding. Like, so we talked about like zero knowledge cryptography and like and we also learned about I think parallel computing. So it is a little different from XCamp courses in that manner. I'd still say the overall level of the USACO camp courses are still like slightly easier than 603, but definitely there were some new topics in there.
Sure, especially for the enrichment, I think it's pretty eye-opening for you guys. So now let's turn to the next question. Tell us something interesting or something that impressed you in the national camp. Let's start from Thomas.
I think this would probably just be the stuff we did outside of the lectures and contests. Like when I was like thinking about camp, like I was like preparing for like pure coding for like a whole week, and then maybe I'll get a bit better, right? But they prepared like so many fun activities like mini golf, the Six Flags excursion. We played frisbee, and they had like a bunch of other like fun coding competitions. Like they had like a terminal game, which is I guess kind of similar to Battle Code, if you know what that is.
Okay, so now let's turn to Larry. Anything interesting and especially impressed you something?
I think overall, like my experience is that like you would normally think of campers as like kind of like introverted and nerdy people, but that's actually not true, because like if you like talk to all of the people at camp, they all like they all talk to you, they're friendly. I think it's just a really good environment. And we played like a lot of different games like Secret Hitler or like Castle Fall, that are like maybe games that you've never heard of, but really fun and really like test your like both social and like logical skills, I guess. So I think that was really interesting.
Thank you. Now let's come to Dong. Anything interesting and impressed you that you want to share with us?
Yeah, yeah, I would say like probably, yeah, like what we did like outside of the contest, I found it like were like really interesting. Also, I would say like we all like met like a bunch of like new people, which I would say was like very nice, because they're all like probably like the top like people like at least in the US, and I thought it was like really interesting, like meeting like Benjamin Chi and like Brian Dean, which was really nice. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so talking about the staff, so which finalists or staff in the camp impressed you the most and why? And also, yeah, anything related to them? Either like other finalists or staff, both okay. Anyone?
Okay, I'll go. Okay, so I think like generally like the coaching staff was like great. They really like helped us like in the lectures, or like in like what we had was like contest reviews. And actually how those work was like after we had like a 4-hour or like 5-hour contest, then the coaches would come like actually like help us with the problems, and we had like a pretty nice discussion. And I think like overall like they really like led us in a good way. Like we also did like a bunch of like fun activities together, for example like the mini golf and like Secret Hitler, like we played with the coaches as well, and I thought that was really fun.
Cool. How about Larry and Thomas? Do you have any like specific staff or finalists that you want to mention?
Yeah, like all of the staff are really impressive and extremely talented. But I remember Matt Fontaine. So he basically runs. He used to run a YouTube channel called Algorithms Live. But basically he gave a lecture on flows, and I thought it was really cool because he introduced like a lot of stuff that's not like so basically there's a bunch of like flows algorithms and they all have the same time complexity technically, but like some are just better than others. And he introduced us to a bunch of those better algorithms that like you can't easily find on the internet because there's like really no resources. And I thought that was really cool.
Cool, thank you. How about Larry? Any staff of other finalists impressed you?
I think like all of the staff were very impressive, like in their own right. Like for example, Benjamin Cheese, like really like good at coding, and he also shared a lot of like insight into like how he creates problems, etc. But I would have to say like probably the one that impressed me the most was Mark Chen, because not only were his like I think he works at OpenAI, and he was like in charge of a lot of the ChatGPT and whatever, like all of the technology there. But what really impressed me the most was like what he did outside of the lectures. He was really good at playing all of those games, and also he like he was also really good at playing piano. And so it was like really impressive whenever he was like playing piano, playing those games. Like he was like really good at like all of those things. So I found that really impressive.
Okay, so thank you. Yeah, so I think in the camp, there were not just the coach, but also some teachers or coaches coming from the industry, and they share lots of eye-opening new technology, or maybe some the cutting edge like concept or product to you guys too, like just like ChatGPT. So that's all the question about the camp. Then now today, for lots of audience coming to listen to the talk, they are also very interested in how you got into the camp at the first place. So over the next few questions, we'll go over some of the questions that ask you about your learning experience or learning journey over the past year, or maybe the past few years. So the first question is going to be to all of you, what's the top 3 action items that you took, say like for the first past year, or maybe past 1 to 2 years, that lifted you to the national camp level? If you already have the answer, you can directly unmute yourself.
So like one major thing that I did over last summer was that I started like a blog on like basically whenever I'd solve a problem, I just make a post on the blog and just write down my solution and like what wrong with me when I couldn't solve the problem. And I think that's like actually very helpful for like because when you solve a problem, like usually you just like if you can solve it, you solve it and you code it and you're done with it. And if you can't solve it, maybe you look at the editorial and then using that, you code it and you solve it. But I feel like for me, that wasn't really like, I wasn't gaining too much from doing just that, because like I would solve a problem and then like maybe I'd forget about it. And then like, it's like I never solved that problem in the first place. So I think starting a blog where like you can point out what like where you went wrong when you were solving a problem, and like what you missed, and other techniques to help you remember stuff better, is that was really helpful for me.
Yeah, so in some sense, it's like to explain the problem to yourself again in text, so that it's more like fully mastered by yourself, right? Thanks, Thomas. And also, just to add to his answer, I think Thomas has been one of the best students at X Camp over the past few years. But what really changed him, like in the past year, I think, was his homework completion rate. Like before the past year, I've been teaching him for a long time too, and as well as other teachers. But over the courses or teaching, like the homework completion is always very difficult to achieve. No matter it's like not limited to Thomas, like for all students, it's really difficult to achieve. But over the past year, I think many of the students in 603, their homework completion really lifted themselves. And also for the past summer, I think later probably some of them will mention that too. For the past summer, there were very intensive camp going on at X Camp, that they will get together physically together every day just to solve the problems. And the coach or the teacher will guide them through those problems one by one. And yeah, it's really intensive experience, and that's really helped Thomas. I think his grit and also his discipline really improved for the past year, at least compared to the past that I used to teach him back that time. So now let's turn to the other 2 students here, Dong and Larry. Who want to go first?
I can go first. So I think like in the past year, I haven't actually done that many problems, like not as many as other XCamp students maybe. But I think one thing that really helped was like well, I mean, I still did a lot of problems, but not as much as XCamp. So doing a lot of problems is definitely very, very helpful. But another thing that I did was I also made sure that I was like good at math. So like, cause I had a pretty strong math background back then. And then I like throughout the year, I wanted to make sure I was good at both coding and math, because math can help you with a lot of different like coding problems in a lot of situations. It can help you find observations. It can help you find, or it can help you with like understanding a lot of algorithms like FFT and generating functions. And it can help with a lot of like problem solving as well. So I think math is one important thing. And the other was like kind of focusing on my weaknesses, because it's very tempting to like, if you're good at data structures, just only solve data structure problems. But I realized that like I'm good at math and somewhat good at data structures, but my weaknesses were mostly like DP and like the more obscure data structures. So I worked on that, and that definitely helped a lot.
Great, thank you. Then how about Dong?
Yeah, so for me, I think like one of like the most like important like steps I took was probably like kind of like having a plan about like solving problems and like kind of like maybe like taking contests. And so the idea is that you kind of want to like say, okay, like this week, maybe like how many of these problems should I get done or whatever. And I think like joining XCamp has really helped me in this aspect, because like we had like teacher Peter and teacher Roger. They actually like kind of planned out, especially like the summer. Yeah, where we had like basically like continuous like efforts of like solving like challenging programming problems. And I think we solved like around like 200 problems like within like the one summer, like 2022 summer. And I thought it really helped me as in like kind of like consistently like having like a plan and consistently like solving problems. And I think, yeah, that really helped me.
Cool. And then I think the journey to the USACO finalists is not easy at all. I think that's not just for students, but also for parents. Over here, I just also want to check with the parents to see whether you have anything to say about, from your perspective, what's the most significant change, or say, what's the most efficient or effective approach that your kids took for the past few years that really helped him. You can feel free to unmute yourself and directly talk. Anyone from our parents here? Larry's dad, I think, and then Dong's dad, and also Thomas Mall.
Hi, this is Danny. I'm Dong's dad. So, and what I saw from Dong is that he very dedicated and very consistent, doing a lot of the homework in the case. So I think that he feel confident and did get improved a lot last year.
Yeah, I think Dong was probably one of the students who solved the most problems at X Camp. I think he's probably like top 2 or top 3 or something. Yeah. Oh yeah, thanks, Danny. And for Thomas and Larry, for your parents, do you have anything to share with this question?
Oh, as teacher Yuan said, Thomas he know Thomas very well, and he thought he made a big progress this year. So for me, I think Thomas is just a late bloomer. Like before, I was always worried, like all the time playing games, and so whenever he has time, he will play games. But for this year, for the past year, I think I need to say thanks to X Camp, and especially Coach Peter. Coach Peter is really like, he's a very young. He also very young. I'm like very impressed by his his dedication to the to high quality teaching and his care for each student. And every student naturally respect him and listen and follows his advice. So like, yeah, sometimes if I see Thomas playing games and didn't do homework, I'll send a message to Coach Peter, say Thomas didn't do his homework. And yeah, sometimes Coach Peter will, I think he will talk to Thomas, and Thomas will do the homework right away. And sometimes Coach Peter told me, Thomas already did very well. Let him play some game is fine. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I just feel like he's very lucky to have X Camp, all the top-notch teachers, and especially Coach Peter, who knows the students very well. He knows everybody's strengths and weakness. He talked to every student in the 603 class, I think. Yeah, that's what I want to share.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Larry said, if you have anything to share, feel free to unmute whenever you want. Yeah, we will.
Okay, I just say something really quick. I think all the parents and students have shared a really nice experience, which could apply to fellow students at a younger age. Because I know Larry, and I also know a few other campers from X Camp. I think like each student has their different way of learning, right? Some students may make huge fast progress within one season. Some students make steady progress every season, right? And the way that they study is also kind of not always the same, even though they all take classes from X Camp coaches, right? So that's something to really just like to keep in mind if like a younger age students wants to improve at the really competition level. Just try to figure out what's good for yourself. Yeah, that's pretty much I would like to share.
Yeah, thanks, Alan. So now let's turn to the next question. Competitive programming in general is pretty challenging and difficult, especially when you reach platinum level and you want to step into the top 26 in the United States. So did you ever have any moment that you want to give up, and how did you overcome? Also, like in general, any blockers that you hit along the journey, and how did you overcome them? So yeah, feel free to directly unmute and talk.
Okay, so I guess I'll say some of the things that I thought about, like giving up, or some like low points. I think there was definitely like sometimes during like 10th and 11th grade, definitely like, especially after USACO contests where you do really poorly, like for example, if you fail to solve a problem, or you're like debugging a problem for a really long time. I think that happened to me actually on both of my February contests. But like, especially like after the contest is over, you sort of like lose motivation. You're like, oh, I'm not going to make camp anyways. Why should I try? Like, this is like, and then you get kind of sad and you kind of want to give up. But I think the best way to overcome it is just to like believe in yourself. And like the bar for camp is actually way lower than you would think. Like you would think in order to get into camp, you have to solve like every problem or something. But in reality, it's like a lot lower. And so even if you do bad on like the first 2 or 3 contests, the last contest still has the highest weight. And if you do well, then you still have a chance. So like, even if you do poorly on a contest, this like applies to like silver and gold as well. I remember during silver, there was one time I was like a couple points away from the cutoff, and it was only because I had a really stupid bug on the easiest problem. And so it's really, really easy to give up, but just remember that you always have another chance, even if you haven't solved anything for like the first 4 hours of US Open, you can still like, if you solve a problem, you can still get somewhere. So yeah, I guess my advice is like, don't give up. You always have a chance, even if you don't do well on your initial contests.
Okay, yeah. Thanks, Larry. How about Dong and Thomas?
Yeah, so for me, I would say like one of the most like challenging points was when I was in gold. So I was actually like kind of stuck in gold for like 2 years, and it took me like 8 contests to promote to platinum. And my message for everyone is probably like, you kind of have to like trust the process, and like you just have to believe that like with like enough like hard work and like grinding, you will get somewhere. And whether it's like, maybe it's like this like next contest, or like maybe a couple contests after, I'm sure like with enough like practice and like kind of like yeah, like with more practice, you're going to be able to like promote to the next division, or maybe some other goal that you have.
Yeah, talking about gold, you said it's probably one of the most difficult moments for you. What's the difference between passing gold and passing silver, and also passing bronze from your point of view?
Okay, so from what I think of this as in like, I would say like bronze requires more of like a logical, you have to have like some like logical skills. For me, like I think I kind of learned like algebra, and then I learned some programming, and then I think, at least for that time, I think it was like enough to pass bronze. For silver, I think you need to like learn some concepts such as like prefix sums, maybe binary search, and some like basic graphical algorithms. And with those, I think, and like right now, I think silver has more like ad hoc problems, so you probably have to work on those too. But like, if once you have like those concepts like kind of mastered, I think silver should be okay. And for gold, I think it's still difficult to this day. There are some like math problems that are like really challenging in gold, but I think like probably like one contest out of the 4 contests in like a USACO season, there's going to be like definitely like one gold contest that is like for you. And yeah, I think that's basically it.
Yeah, thanks. In some sense, like gold will be significantly much harder than the other 2 lower levels, and also it takes you much more effort and longer like period of time naturally to try to unblock it. So now let's turn to Thomas. What's your blocker along the way, and how did you?
For me, so like basically, I think for me at least, there's just like period of time where like I was solving a bunch of problems, but like I didn't feel myself improving at all. Like I don't know, like my contest performance would still be like the same even after solving like 50 problems or whatever. But like I guess just like trust in the process. You are getting better even if you can't tell, hopefully. But yeah, it's just like I think having X Camp, like we had like 80 mocks, like some like really large number like that, and just like doing a contest and solving problems consistently, it definitely helps you. It definitely helps, and I managed to get over the plateau, and yeah.
Yeah, and then I noticed that you mentioned the mock tests. You mentioned that there were around 80 or something mock tests along the road that helped you. So what's the difference between a XCamp mock test with some other, say like random ad hoc online competition? Like from your point of view, like taking like an online competition, what's the pro and con, and also for XCamp mock test, how did that help you with more details?
I think that like aside from a bunch of the OI contests, like a lot of the online contests like code forces, they're really short, and that's like, I mean, they can help you prepare for USACO, but like only having 2 hours versus like 4 or 5 hours for USACO is, I think that's just like not as good of as a practice as like taking a 4-hour contest. And also the topics are like a lot different for code forces. But I think that the XCamp mock tests like just try to simulate those OI style contests. So they're long, they're 3 problems, and the problems like have a multi-step process that you try to figure out. And I think it's just good practice because it's like it's more similar to what you're preparing for.
Yeah. Anything special that you need to do after each of the mock tests, or say like at least the coach asked you to do after contests?
Solve the problems. Like if you couldn't solve the problem, if you spent like a couple hours on a problem and you couldn't solve it, and you're just not gonna bother with it after the mock test, then like there's no point in you spending all those hours on trying to solve the problem. Like just make sure you know what went wrong if you did badly, and you know what went right if you did well, so you can improve.
Yeah, and also another thing that coach really asked students to do was to have a sort of a summary to summarize what's going on during the competition, and then from it, because there are very limited number of mistakes like you can make, or type of mistake like you can make in competitions. As long as you try to then out of it, gradually you are able to improve, and that's also very important in taking mock tests. So now let's come to the next question. Like for Thomas, you stay with XCamp for a longest time, and also for Larry and Dong, you also came for XCamp and stay for like at least for more than 1 year. So to both parents and the students, how did you hear about XCamp, and why did you choose to stay for such a long time? And not just for anything that you want to say. Yeah. We can go with students first, and then later let's see whether parents have anything to share with us.
Okay, so I guess I can go first. So I actually heard of XCamp from Alex's parents. So Alex is actually another camper who was able to go to camp because in part of XCamp's tutoring. But we actually knew Alex's parents from math because he also does math. He actually made MOF this year, so he's very, very, very good at math. But like I think after we learned about it from Alex's parents and we just tried it out, I think it was like probably one of the most rigorous courses you could possibly find in the market. Like AlphaStar courses don't even like come close to like the level of the rigor, I guess, of XCamp. And like other courses basically offer like USACO Platinum courses, but then they're like pretty shallow and they don't have that much substance to them. So either if you're at the level, you have to either like learn everything yourself, which is what most campers do. But with XCamp, they give you like a systematic curriculum to follow. So it's actually helpful in that way.
I was muted, sorry. Thanks, Dari. And Dong, how about you?
Yeah, okay. So for me, I kind of like in part of like joining XCamp, I actually heard about it like a couple years ago, and it was probably from some people on Discord. But then like actually last year in March, I joined XCamp, and it was actually I actually joined because like I never actually knew there were like courses and like classes like 603, and actually like I found this like really valuable since actually during summer last year, I think all of us really improved a lot in terms of like competitive programming skills. And I really liked it because it was actually a really nice like environment we were in, because all of us were like pretty close in like skill levels. And I think like we had like hours like each day during summer where we would like brainstorm on like ideas for their problems. And I think like this really helped us, like each of us like improve our skills. And I really found this like helpful throughout like this USACO season, and as well as like preparing me for like, and the rest of the X Camp like students for camp as well.
Yeah, since you mentioned that it's a pretty good environment, like can you talk a little bit more about the details in terms of like what kind of environment it was, and also like in terms of the help or support from each other for the students? How did you feel about that? And also how was the chemistry in cycle 3? I think this question also goes to all students here, not limited to Dong.
Yeah, so I think so for like, I think like we actually like, in terms of like the environment, I would say that like it was like really nice, because we were like kind of open to like share our like ideas. And it's kind of like the idea of like keep like, as in like we're kind of like brainstorming as a group. And like sometimes like when we're given like a problem, we would like brainstorm like a bunch of ideas and like think of like an approach from there. And I would also like to say that the coaches are like really nice, especially like we had like teacher Roger this like summer, and especially like during like summer at that time, he gave us like really helpful hints for like problems, and it really, I think it helped us like develop like a nice problem solving strategy. And yeah, overall like the environment was like very nice.
Yeah, thank you. Now let's turn to Thomas. I think you were the first class, or maybe the second class of XCamp students. So you stayed with XCamp for like 5 years. It's a really long time. So what's your feeling about it? And also what's kind of your impression or takeaway? Like,
yeah, so like I joined X Camp a while ago, and it was just like it was like a fun experience, like meeting people and like making friends with people. And then I guess I just like stayed with X Camp, and now here I am. Yeah. Yeah.
okay, go ahead.
But I think that like one of the parts that I like the most about X Camp is like there's like a community of people that like also do this competitive programming thing that you can like make friends with and you can get pretty close with, and it's really fun, and it motivates you to keep on learning and getting better.
Yeah, thank you. And for parents, do you have anything that you want to share with us?
Yeah, I like also, I think the students already state the reasons why they stayed choose as camp and stayed. And for Thomas, yes, stay that long is all. I think for as a parent, I think there's two main reasons. The first is the instruction and the excellent teachers. And I think when Thomas joined, because like Charlie is also a Harker parent, so we heard about the X camp, like attended the first presentation, and then we decided to give it a try, and then we are glad we did it. So for the as at the beginning, Thomas, I think at the beginning they all need to take the logo class, right? It's not logo, and I think the XCamp allow him to skip the logo and learn C++ straight away, and later also skip some classes and to the most advanced class. And also the teachers at X Camp, as I already said about like Coach Peter, not only Coach Peter, but all other like a top-notch competition programming experts. They are all the teachers. Yeah, they are so lucky to have them as their teachers. And the second reason is that X Camp also created a community for the students to learn and grow together. So like the camps, I think X Camp hold the camps during the winters and the summer breaks. Also like the weekend in-person mock exams. I think the student for Thomas, he's looking forward to meet his friends at the X Camp office. So all this environment create a strong friendship between the students. Yeah, and yeah, I think that this time they all together after attending the camp, they most of them went to like the world of Coca-Cola. They played together. They are very happy together. Yeah, that's as a parent why I support him to stay at X Camp.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, I think for Thomas, it's been like such a long time. Thomas, do you still remember how many teachers at the very beginning to the end up to today? Like how many teachers has taught you? Starting from Teacher Tiger.
Teacher Tiger, and then you, and then that's it.
No. N Hao, right? N Hao and
wait.
yeah, N
Yeah.
Hao and also Xie Ting, Teacher Ce, and Li Chao, and yeah, of course, Coach Robert and the Coach Peter and Max and Zheng Fei, right? And also Qing Yu. There are so many teachers that have been teaching all of you guys along the road. Yeah, and also I still remember back in the days when you guys were working together. I told you guys at the very beginning, you guys are not competing with each other, but mostly working as a group to compete for the highest level. In the end, if you help each other, then everyone will be able to make to a very high level. But if we don't support each other, then you are working alone, right? So it's not as effective and efficient as working as a group, as a team. So that's always how we want to form a community to support each other. Yeah, thanks for the information. And I happen to came up with lots of the past memories too. So now I think due to the time limit, I don't want to go further with the questions in the slide, but instead I want to go with the QA section to answer some of the parents' questions in the chat. But of course, if for the audience parents here, if you are interested, feel free to join the WeChat group on the left side with the QR code, and also you can register for our summer camp, and you can take the free coding placement test as well. You can get the information in the slides. I'll go from the top about the parents' questions. And during the QA section, if the question is to ask any specific parent or student, I will directly do that. If not, then the question will be for all of you. Anyone can directly unmute and answer the question. The first question is that can you submit a game in USACO? I know it might seem funny. Thomas, since you like game, would you like to quickly answer?
I'm not sure what that is asking for.
Yeah, me too. Then maybe you can clarify a little bit, then we will answer your question. So let's come to the next one. There was a parent asking about Thomas' blog. So Thomas directly posted the link there. Thanks, Thomas. And next question was entering high school, how to balance your coding and other activities, and what's the trade-off there? Anyone?
it just don't have other activities. It's that easy.
Yeah, so basically Thomas is pretty dedicated in coding, and is his main activity, and it's not something he do on a whim. Instead, he invested the majority of his bandwidth in studying coding. So how about Larry and Dong? How did you balance?
Oh, yeah, I like kind of agree. Like you have to definitely make coding your main priority. But like if you're struggling with like schoolwork or whatever, or if you just have like a ton of it and you can't really do anything about that, then probably try to like limit it to weekends and like maybe early mornings. Like Code Forces contests are in early mornings. So if you can just wake up early every day and then just take Code Forces contests and then not worry about anything over the weekdays and then just do all of the practice in the weekend or something like that. Definitely like also works.
Yeah, thanks. How about Dong? How did you balance between different activities?
So the thing for me was more about like planning. So like you have to think about like, okay, for school, like how much time do you want to like spend on like each class? And for me, like personally, I kind of like dedicated like a lot of my time towards like competitive programming, like USACO. Yeah, and I would say like as long as like you spend your time like productively, like maybe like studying for school or spending like the rest of your time on some other activities or like USACO, then I think like you definitely like have enough time. And I would say like you have to like set goals for like maybe for your classes or like maybe for your like competitive programming or your other like goals or like your other like pursuits. And I think like once you set those and you kind of like set down your time for like each of those activities, I think like you can definitely like achieve what you want, and like one day it will happen.
Yeah, thank you. So in other words, it's all about planning and priorities, these two keywords. So the next question is that how about important it is to have parents with a CS background? Would you like to quickly say like whether both of your parents have a CS background or not?
Okay, so my dad has a CS background and it definitely helped a little. Definitely like if you're the parent, probably the most helpful thing that I got from my dad was setting up my compiler and just like learning how to set up your compiler as well, like learning how to use terminal, learning how to set up your compiler. But like in terms of actually learning how to code, I think that should be left to like yourself. So yeah.
Thank you. How about Thomas and Dong?
For me, actually, like my dad, he does have like a CS background, and he kind of like guided me in during like for my bronze and my and like basically to pass bronze and to pass silver. I think like he kind of guided me to like solve like the past USACO like contest problems, which I actually found like really helpful at that time. And yeah, I think like having like a parent who does have like some like CS experience really does help.
Thank you. Thomas.
Yeah, so my dad also has some CS experience, but I don't think he hasn't like really assisted me with getting better at USACO. Maybe I could maybe like okay, when I started, like he just put up a flat problem and solved it in front of me. So I guess that was motivation, but he didn't really help me outside of that.
Okay. So in general, like with CS background, will definitely help the students to learn, but it's not like necessarily required. So I've seen many students, their parents, they don't have a CS background, yeah, but they took care of they were owning the learning process really well. So eventually they also reach a very high level. But at the very beginning, it's always helpful to have the parents with a CS background to guide you. And the next question is that do we have planned to have on-site in addition to online learning? So right now for summer camp and winter camp, we always have offline learning experience. But for weekly class, we don't have any plan to make it offline. It's all online right now. Maybe we can change in the future, but let's still stay tuned in the WeChat account of XCamp. Next question is that while doing Codeforces help you with USACO?
Not really. I think like the styles of Codeforces and USACO are just extremely different. So it like obviously solving problems can't hurt you, but I don't think it'll be as helpful as like doing like more like the different kinds of problems. But but like Codeforces is like something you can do on the side, and it's like it's a fun contest you can do. So yeah, but actually, once you get to the higher levels, like the harder Codeforces problems are pretty good. So you can use those too. But like if you're trying to get into Plat, I don't think Codeforces will help like as much as other things.
Cool.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Thomas. Like, generally, how Codeforces contests work is the easier the problem, the lower the quality, the harder the problem, the higher the quality. And also the harder the problem, the more like the more similar to USACO. So if you're just like doing bronze or silver, Codeforces is probably not the right place for you. But if you're doing like platinum and you're trying to get into camp, definitely being able to get a higher Codeforces rating, practice like 2400 plus problems, definitely would help.
Cool. Dong, would you like to share a little bit about your Codeforces experience too?
Yeah, kind of. So I'll say like personally, like I think like I created like my Codeforces account like a while ago, probably when I was in like silver, like gold. And like initially, like what I found was that like it wasn't like related to like USACO, but like later, as like basically when I like got into like platinum, I actually found that like they had like actually really good like high quality problems, and I actually found this like kind of useful for like practicing for like USACO like platinum, or basically like the harder like divisions of USACO.
Yeah, thanks. Just to add a note here, like other than Codeforces, actually there were some other high quality competitions as well, such as AdCoder, and in the past there was a website called TopCoder, and there were lots of very high quality problems in the past in these two websites as well. But the problem is that there were so many questions in the internet nowadays, and it's really difficult to filter what's the best for you on your own. So it's always good to have someone who can oversee you and who can nail down a plan for you to proceed. So the next question is that, did you get a chance to know everyone in US Camp? What's the special for those top 4 students in the US Camp? And also, what do you plan to do better for the US Camp next year? Oh, by the way, I think Thomas and Larry, they will retire from USACO this year. So they won't have a next year for USACO, but for Dong, he will have a next year. But in terms of the what's the top 4 students who entered the national team, what's the special thing about them from your point of view? Anyone? Larry, you compete with them, so would you like to?
Yeah, so the top 4, actually, I'm not sure if this is released yet on the USACO website, but I guess I'll just say it now. The top 4 were Rain, obviously, Augustia, Rohin, and Austin. So I think all of us have actually known Rohin for actually a very long time, and he's like a good friend, and or I don't know if like a good friend is the right word, but he like we talk to him a lot, we do contests with him, etc. And he is very, very good at like this stuff. Yeah. I guess another thing I would say is Austin is like he was so like on the final day, we basically got to do whatever we wanted after Six Flags, and Austin came to our room and he was just playing Geometry Dash with Brian the entire day. So it was pretty interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, just to ask a little bit more, what's the special thing about them that you think helped them to make the top 5, the top 4?
I think Austin is like really, really good at math and implementation in particular. So any problem that requires like a lot of math or any problem that requires a lot of implementation, he's probably going to solve it. Rain is just good at everything. And I mean, Augustia is also like really consistent, so he can like really easily identify the easiest problems and he can always solve them pretty much. So he's like really consistent, and Rohin is just like good like all around. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Next question, I will try to speed up a little bit. If some question is answered by one of you, then we can continue. How hard it is to learn C++ from a Java background? Anyone can quickly answer this.
They're pretty much the same language. Like if you squint hard enough, you can't tell the difference.
Actually, that's like not very true. Like they're different in like a lot of ways, but I know like going from C++ to Java is like really, really easy, but going from Java to C++, like I know a lot of people have done it, and it's very possible, but probably not as easy as going from C++ to Java.
Okay, so the next question is that I heard, actually it's a code forces question. I will skip, given we have already talked about it for many times. What's the average score to get into US Camp this year? Did you know what, how they weight each of the competition or missed contest when computing the average score or any score that decide whether you can enter the camp or not? If this is something you know.
I think the average for X Camp students was like 400 to 500, I want to say. But nobody really knows how they weight the contest or select the finalists, because like they don't release like a pre-college ranking for the contest, a USA pre-college ranking for each of the contests. Like you only know the top 10, so I guess they don't really, like it's hard to tell.
Yeah, what we only know is that the last one probably were weighted the most, but other than that, they never release anything to the public about how they rank that. What is the timeline for you to pass bronze, silver, and gold and platinum? Essentially, like how many times did you try? Maybe just quickly tell the answer. Dong, how many times did you try for bronze, silver, and gold?
So I think I got, okay, so bronze was on my second try, silver was also my second try, gold was my 8th try. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Larry, how about you?
Bronze was my first try, but like this was like very long ago, so it's like really easy. Silver was like 3rd try, I think, and then gold was 1, 2, 3, 3rd try, and then yeah.
Thank you. Thomas, how about you?
I think I was a lot slower. I think bronze was my 3rd try, silver was my 5th try, gold was my 4th try.
Cool, thank you. So if 6th grade has Amy and Silver at this stage and wants to go to both math and coding competition, do you suggest concentrating on math first and then do coding later? Or you suggest doing them simultaneously? 6th grade with Amy and Silver at this stage.
Okay, I guess I can kind of answer this. So when I was in 6th grade, I think I barely missed Amy and I hadn't started coding yet. So I in terms of my trajectory, I was like definitely a lot slower than that. But if you have Silver already and Amy, I think you should try both. Personally, for me, focusing on math first definitely helped a lot because math helped with problem solving, and like having a strong math background just makes everything else easier. But definitely like, because like they kind of go both ways. If you're good at coding, then a lot of that comes into math, and if you're good at math, then a lot of that comes into coding. So definitely like just work on both of them. Don't think of it as like one first over another.
Sure, thank you. And then the next question is that, let me quickly check. Yeah, I think that's all the questions that I found in the chat that are, I think there were still some questions about code forces, but I think we've already covered it in some sense. So I think that's pretty much all the questions that we have for today. And Shanshan, our marketing staff, also posted the link for taking the essentially some course information about the weekly class and the summer camp. And also, yeah, last question. What are your top 3 ideal college offers? Dong, what's your top 3 college offers? If, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I would say like everyone has like their like ideal like goals. I think like specifically like for college, like they like USACO a lot. So if you do that, that's very nice. They also like your other activities, such as like sometimes they like sports and some like other maybe some like other like extracurriculars that you do. And I think like if you work for it, and like everyone has their own goals, and if you work for it, like you can get it.
Yeah, and also for Thomas and Larry, what's the top 3 ideal college offers?
So I think that Deandra had a really good ICTC performance a few years ago, so that's definitely a good choice. For me, West Valley College is like really close to home, so it'd be free housing. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Larry, how about you?
I mean, I would say like if I'm answering seriously, like probably probably I would have to have like I would probably prefer MIT just because like all the other campers are going there, and if you know them, then it it like is like good because you already know the people that you're going to work with. But yeah, just like that's definitely my first choice, and I guess staying close to home is also good. So Berkeley, Stanford, and Thomas's schools. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, thanks everyone. And next Monday, which is next Monday, like 3 days later, we will have the USACO official director Brian Dean to be here to share his insights with all our parents and students here. So please stay tuned to XCamp official account or official website. And thanks everyone for attending today's event. Especially thanks our finalists, Thomas, Larry, and Dong, and also thanks their parents to be here today to share their input as well. And please feel free to ask us more questions. Feel free to contact us, and for anything related to the course, please also feel free to ask us too. Thanks for attending today's event. We will see you next time. Have a good night. Bye.